Hey YouTube, it's Pump, and today we'll be covering my last video on Warcraft. I believe the game is in a terrible spot due to a large culmination of choices by Blizzard, and today I want to cover them as best as I can. My list will be in personal order of importance, and I will deep dive my topic points as much as I can. Before I delve into my topic points, I want to start out by going over who I am and my Warcraft achievements. I am Pumptastic, someone who started out terrible at Fire Mage and slowly ascended to the high end. My raid parses are all while raid leading, with the exception of Aberrus, where I only raid led the final boss. I started gray as can be in Sepulchre, and then I got good in Dragonflight and shared it with all of you, and helped a lot of Fire Mages understand how to play and how to improve with the game. I've been cutting edge for 4 tiers in a row, with key rating in the top 1% just about every tier. And all that has led me to the stopping point of Warcraft after much thought and delegation, and that brings me to my first point: predatory game design. World of Warcraft is littered with things that psychologically commit you to playing for many hours at a time through various systems in-game, primarily in the form of strong gear or collectibles. I'm going to quote a passage from the University of Adelaide in Australia, a school focusing on psychology because it encompasses what I am trying to convey very well. Predatory monetization schemes typically involved in-game purchasing systems that disguise or withhold the true long-term cost of the activity until players are already financially and psychologically committed. Such schemes are designed to encourage repeated player spending using tactics that involve limited disclosure of the product and behaviors that reinforce purchasing over strategic or skillful play. Blizzard does not make money off of you getting the best gear in the first month of a new tier's release. They make money off of you coming back for many months to min-max your character week after week and resub to complete your goals with no clear chance of attaining your gear goals. In fact, this is further emphasized if you are purchasing any in-game carries in an attempt to gear faster. They make money off of 2 things, which is you buying WoW tokens to speed up your progression, or when the resub comes around every month. That is how they make money. I want to make a quick example and visualize this on how it was for some classes this season. For just about any intellect staff user in this specific season, you had 2 best in slots that you were aiming to get: Naimu's very rare staff, or the Staff of Iridal from your Mythic Plus vault. If you did not get either of these, you were missing out on roughly 1% DPS no matter how you looked at it. So what are the chances of getting Mythic Iridal from vault, you might ask? Assuming you filled out your Mythic Plus vault, you had around a 3 in 76 chance each week to get Mythic Iridal, or a 4% chance. That means that if you got average luck, it would take you 25 vaults to see Iridal. Assuming a generous 20 minutes per key, that is around 2.3 hours per full vault, meaning it would take roughly 58 hours to see it. The irony here is that there aren't even 25 vaults in a season, meaning you would have to get lucky to win. Your chances from raid are significantly better, but I wanted to focus on one of the many examples of the flaws the gearing has. Your odds from vault are not presented to you, and you are forced to just keep trying over and over and over again until you're at the point at the end of the tier. This is without even having a discussion on the legendary system throughout Dragonflight that gatekeeps even more player power behind extreme wait times and gold that are borderline necessary to play the class at its highest level. To summarize, Blizzard's design is predatory because it does not give you percentages on your loot chances from vault and raid, resulting in extreme psychological commitment to getting your best gear and new collectibles. You are hooked on the gear progression coupled with raid progress, and Blizzard knows that and will continue to lock it behind egregious and long-term grinds. It is what makes them money, so it is what they will continue to do. If you really want to put on your tinfoil hat, one might even say that the raid nerfs are spaced out just enough to keep you entertained in playing if your raid gets stuck. It doesn't take 4 months to get the data to suddenly nerf last boss progressions. Gear progression is something that Blizzard desperately needs to address, and I'll cover my brainstorm solutions at the end of the video. The next section I want to cover is Mythic Plus Affixes and Private Auras. Mythic Plus Affixes is something that has needed attention for a long time because it creates a potential skill or class disparity based on your weekly schedule. If you're busy during weeks with easy affixes, also known as push weeks, you are actively making key pushing harder on yourself due to something that can be largely out of your control. This is something that the M+ community has been asking for since 2023, but I wanted to bring it up because it is something that still needs to be addressed. I understand the appeal Affixes has to the casual player base, but I think that Affixes like bolstering should be binned and never seen again. Most of the fun that M Plus has in the high end is completion of those massive pulls, and any affix actively preventing you from doing that should be chalked. I think that the WoW design team could come up with affixes that do not have large repercussions, allowing affixes to still exist, but still give a new feeling to dungeons each week. Let's move on to private auras. Private auras are mechanics with information that is hidden to the player until they suddenly happen, allowing for little pre-planning until you press an assigned macro to give you whatever information the fight calls for. This is something that the design team brought out more in Dragonflight, and as a raid leader, I can't tell you something that made me more frustrated than the words, "my macro didn't work," or "was there a weak aura update?" I discourage private auras because I believe that they create a weird technical skill disparity aspect towards a new mechanic. This was specifically felt for me on Fyraak progression with Shadow Cages and a Mirrored Sill. With Fyraak in specific, you would press a macro in Phase 2 if you got this red circle mechanic that went on to 4 random players, telling you who you need to break out of these cages. This seems very easy in concept, but in reality you would get players who had never seen the mechanic before for like 20 pulls, and then panic or forget that the macro exists when they actually get it. Of course this is a solvable skill issue, but I think the dev team can still create very challenging and intuitive fights that don't need cover-ups with private auras. It creates a weird technical skill disparity that feels unlike Warcraft, and a cycle of dependency on weak auras that is frustrating to deal with. Add-ons like Infinite Raid Tools are actively designing workarounds for these private auras, but we will see how they actually play out in War Within. My last primary section to cover is economy. When I ask you the best way to make gold in Warcraft, what is your first response? You have 4 viable options: carry services, alt armies, auction house degeneracy, or craft services. If you are not doing one of these 4 methods, you're grinding gold for fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. This gold does add up over time, but nothing like the first methods. Carry services are more common, but in recent times, Blizzard has been actively making it harder for other people to carry for gold in Warcraft with the removal of boosting communities, where boosters could more easily communicate with each other, and now it remains to be somewhat of a taboo subject. But Pump, what about resource farming? The mining materials are moderately expensive. They must be viable. No, not even close. Professions are botted way further than the player base realizes, and Blizzard makes minimal effort to ban these bots. In my clip, we can see at least 20 bots flying through Zeralek caverns, and this trend continues into the Forbidden Reach. They are farming materials needed for crafted items, and it is very clear that little effort is actually needed to ban these bots. Any moderator with a brain could park themselves at these resource hubs and mass ban the bots with easily identifiable snap movement that they are performing. Allow me to break down some math for you. A bond is around 260,000 at the time of this video. Assuming 20 bots flew by in my clip, that is 5.2 million gold a month that could be removed from the circulation with extremely minimal effort from anyone with ban authority. If a player were to buy 5.2 million gold from Blizzard, this would cost them $400. Blizzard cares little about banning bots because it plays little into their USD revenue and also plays an unknown part in the economy. I would personally love to know the percentage of profession mats that are actually botted because I feel like it is well over half of the supply. The issue with the Warcraft economy is that there's a billion hoops to jump through to be able to make any decent gold in Warcraft. Even then, you're competing with armies of bots that do what you do at 3 times the efficiency rate, leading to you being better off buying gold most likely. Raiding at the highest level is only a gold sink, with your only returns being BOE items, or you're in a very competitive guild and you sell carries, which is a small percentage of the raiding player base. Augment runes, enchantments, repair costs, buying carries, it all sucks gold out of you, and your ways of making gold are utter dog shit. This leads me to the taboo subject of buying gold from third-party websites that is poorly moderated. If you spend $20 for gold in the auction house on WoW, you get 260,000 gold. If you spend $20 on a third-party website, you get nearly 500k, which is double your monetary value. I knew many people throughout my time in Warcraft that would buy millions from these sites because it's simply the most efficient way to fund your Warcraft activities. Of everyone that I knew that bought from these websites, none of them were ever banned. My sample size might be small, but I believe that it's mostly true. If you aren't banning the bots, then you sure as fuck aren't going to ban the gold buyers. Blizzard wants your money when buying bonds, and it doesn't matter to them what goes on. They can do what they choose, and their choice is to restrict natural gold income while incentivizing you to purchase bonds from them to bolster their USD revenue. I wanted to throw in a bonus topic because I think it's worth talking about, and that is social aspects and time constraints of Warcraft. This is something that I found myself thinking about frequently when thinking about Mythic raiding. I've met and seen extremely good players in lower end guilds because it simply fits their time schedule better. Committing to 9 hours a week of raiding 3 nights a week is an extremely large ask out of any game. When you combine raid preparation with weekly keys, you are at a part-time job level of commitment to a video game at the end of the day. Mythic Warcraft is very fun, but the primary thing I'm looking to see out of WoW development in the War Within is actively reducing chores required to play and gear yourself at the highest level. Raiding 2 times or even 3 times a week is enough of a commitment as is. With that in mind, I wanted to jump into the solutions that myself and others have brainstormed over the past month. I believe that there are 3 primary ways of ethically nerfing Mythic in Warcraft. My first, and my personal favorite, is reducing the time it takes to get best in slot items. Gearing your character to the max feels fantastic, and I believe that there are very easy implementations that can make this process faster. I believe the Great Vault serves a great purpose for alt characters, but it quickly loses value on mains after X amount of time. I believe that there's a gear disparity between weapons and trinkets, and the Great Vault should have a targeting system of sorts that gives you increased odds on getting your key items fast. In addition to this, another gear nerf would be to make Mythic Plus drop max eye level gear at the appropriate key level. This would mean that players are further incentivized to push their keys, and also get their best in slot items while still maintaining integrity. The appropriate key level would probably be around plus 15s in Season 4 numbers, but the key level would be dynamic and appropriate to whatever the season calls for. The bottom line is that gearing faster feels like the best way of nerfing Mythic content while still reducing chore time in-game. The second option is to heavily nerf bosses after Hall of Fame closes. This is the best time to evaluate boss mechanics and see what should be tuned while still maintaining the fun and integrity of the season. This would aim to make Mythic accessible and re-clearable for the majority of Mythic guilds. I understand keeping Hall of Fame integrity the way it is, but as soon as that door shuts, I really believe it's the best time for nerfs. This still could leave a month or more of waiting, but in the grand scheme, this doesn't really matter. If you nail the tuning on release, everyone is happy, but that's a crazy large ask, and I don't think that'll ever happen. The last option is my group's answer, and that is a flexible Mythic raid size. I believe that it's common to have callouts in a Mythic roster, and even have to call off raiding for the entire day if people have life come up. Tuning content to scale from 18 to 22 man would allow for a flexible roster that comfortably maintains a bench if people end up calling out. The largest issue with this is that the content would have to be designed with this in mind, and that really is a large ask. It's common in Heroic to have player number thresholds where mechanics get harder, specifically like Smolderon in Amir Drasil with balls hitting the boss, like there's just more players in there so it makes the boss harder, and mechanics like that would have to be avoided. I doubt this would ever happen though, because I think it's a large risk on Blizzard's end, but it is still a potential solution to the problem. That will do it for my Mythic raiding rant. I don't foresee myself raiding in the future if the game stays the way it is, but I do want to thank all of you for watching my content throughout the past year. I never foresaw the success that my channel received, and thank you all for supporting my content. I may still create Warcraft stuff, but I will not be playing the game barring large changes. Thanks again, and I'll catch you later.